Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. I sound like I'm from North America, but this show plays all the video games from all over the world. We are picking up where we left off last time. It's the beginning of December 1982. Here is what is new in Japan. And we were last in the United States reading the third issue of Video Gaming Illustrated. Let's see the newest video games in Japan. Our quest takes us to the Sword M5 home computer. This is Wonder Hole. I wonder what's in the hole. Let's find out together. Here's the box for Wonder Hole. Now, possibly this was released in the arcade first, but the arcade version is so rare, so hard to come by, I found one black and white picture, so it could even only have been a prototype and not even mass released. That's why you never saw it on the show. But this was, I'm going to say, only for the Sword M5, unless you can track down that arcade system. This marks the 9th game that we've seen so far for the Sword M5 home computer after seeing Dig Dug, Bosconian, Galax, Power Pack, Super Cobra, Tank Battalion, Warp and Warp, and Gatang Gatong. A lot out there. This screenshot is not very good, but I wanted to show you that it was released first in Japan, and this is the only front of the box, or at least Japanese of the front of the box that I could find. And that buggy looks a little familiar too. Anyone want to point that one out? But it is based on a company that we've already seen before. Here's the other artwork we have for Wonder Hole. That's the one that's a little cleaned up because this one's a later release. In fact, some people say this game was released in 1984, and that's because the 1984 release of the Sword M5 was in the United Kingdom and a few other regions. So this is the European front of the box. But I mean, I'll take everything I can get as far as artwork goes. If you look at the copyright, this is IRIM, the 10th time we've seen this company, and the first time we've seen IRIM at home. Everything else that they've done so far has been in the arcades, bringing us incredible games like Andromeda, Space Beam, Sky Shooter, Unowar S, Red Alert, Demon IX, Panther, Olibuchu, and their most recent and most popular Moon Patrol is available in the arcades right now. Here's an ad you would have seen in magazines in Europe whenever it was released in 1984. And look down on the bottom. It shows that it was 25 pounds when it came out, roughly. The blurb says that all you have to do is drive the car across the field, and wherever you encounter a monster, knock it underground. They will dig their way back up to the surface as soon as they reemerge. They will regenerate into larvae, then pupa, boo, and will continue to grow every time they are knocked underground until finally they turn into adults, which are Ema. These are particularly nasty as they shoot at you. In fact, you drive your car over what looks like plates, and you simply go over anything that's not an Ema. That's just about all there is to the game apart from the odd chance to get bonus points. You go on to the next section where you knock out all the monsters. I must confess that I couldn't achieve this however hard I tried. I love this. It's like a review and a little bit about the game, and it sounds like they're making it up. Is it real? Is this the real names of the characters? I don't know for sure. The game uses sprites and sounds. The baddies show yourself as well on the light-colored background. It spoils the game. It could have been very addictive. Looks like they gave it a rating of 3 stars in this ad. And if you're not familiar with the Sword M5, there's the home computer. There's the keyboard at least. System, and then the screenshot, the cartridge that you're going to pop in, and the game. Let's pop in that cartridge and see what Wonder Hole is all about. This is IRIM, released in the beginning of December 1982 in Japan. Wonder Hole. Looks like the titles for most of the Sword M5 games. Really simple, gets right to the point. This has 1 or 2 players, but it is taking turns, so hot seat multiplayer only, so I don't have a reason to play a 2-player game. Let's push number 1 and see how it works. All right, middle of the screen, I am the single color sprite car. As I'm driving around, you can see there's different colored plates. All the different colored plates do is tell you how many points you get for destroying enemies when you run over them. But I'm just driving around. That's the control. I have 4 different directions to move. Oh, and if the wonder hole pops up like that and you drive into it, you die. So if everyone was wondering what's in the wonder hole, that's it. It's death. At least as far as I can tell. We have some enemies that you can just run over, and then we have the red ones, which are like larvae, and they shoot things at you. You have no attack. You have no defense except driving away. And that was it. That was all my lives. That was your usual first experience with Wonder Hole. Let's go in again, pushing number 1. So I would still consider this an arcade maze game, even though, like a single screen arcade maze game, even though there's not a true maze like you would think of as far as Pac-Man. But the driving over things to destroy them, sure, I guess it could be a vehicular combat game. There's just no shooting. There's no attacking. There's just trying to get all the enemies to be crushed. Someone's bringing up, Palpug's bringing up Death Rally, and sure, like a Destruction Derby style game, yeah, I'll take it. But when you destroy all, oh, why didn't I get the point for that? Now, I wonder if the shot of the enemy, well, you can't see it, still counts. Die. There we go. So that one counts. When you finish the round, then you go on to the bonus round. And the bonus game, again, is no way to attack, you're just driving over the enemies. So at least they change up the formula a little bit. You know, you go to a little bonus round like this. But this one is very limited, and it makes me feel like we're playing an arcade game from the days of yore. Let's see if we can get all the enemies. Nice. Okay, so I was able to remove some of the pupas before they pop out. But there's one thing we're missing. The hand controller that I'm using on the Sword M5 has one button, and right now nothing is working on the button. There is no, for me it feels like I'm just moving the joystick around, but no. There's shift on the keyboard. If you hold down shift, look, now the game gives me a boost. I have something to use, but why, oh why, did they not program the boost on the one button that's on your hand controller for the Sword M5? We've seen it used. It's been in other games that we've seen. I don't know why. Maybe you can blame it on the emulation, but find someone who has seen and played the cartridge version, because right now I'm having to hold my hand on the keyboard while the other hand's on the joystick. Oh man, they already got me that fast. So the only strategy that's part of the game is you want to lure enemies to the higher point valued tiles and then run over them. But other than that, what you see here is the entire game. There's a lot to be desired. Here we go. Let's get a speed up here. See, run into the shot and you die. So I feel very limited, like I don't have a lot of control. The first time you play this game, you might even use the speed up and feel like it's even more broken because you didn't know to use shift. It just feels like you can move around. The only port difference between this game you're seeing here in the arcade is the number of grid size. This one's slightly smaller than the arcade, I've been told. But other than that, what we're playing here apparently was the same thing that was in the arcade. The cartridge size for this game apparently is 6 kilobytes in size, so 6 kilopower for the Sword M5. All right, let's see. Watch the shots. Be smart about it. All right. Get them to go. Okay, that works. Don't fall into any wonder holes. Look at them. They're popping out everywhere. Now, right there, see, the shot was invisible, but I still died. Very, very frustrating. I've done playtests and thought I was getting the hang of it. There you go. Finally finished one. Does the boost doesn't even work on the bonus round. I can't speed my car up. So it kind of reminds me of a few games that we've seen. It's like a top-down single-screen arcade game, sort of like a maze game, but it reminds me of a few games, but it's even more limited to that. So it would be more fair if we saw this in the arcade first. Since this is, I mean, maybe in 1984 would be even less in the United Kingdom, but you're essentially not shooting anything. You're just driving over enemies. So in a way, it reminds me of Head On, you know, a car that drives around picking up all the dots, or a Space Chaser is another example. It also gives me vibes of Spectar or Targ without the shooting element, you know, driving from the top down. And in the arcade right now, there's Solar Fox that's available. This kind of makes me feel like Solar Fox, but again, without the shooting. They had a shot at least. This one's just a car driving around. It is reminiscent of some titles we've seen on the Commodore VIC-20, just driving around from a top-down in one screen. One example is Cattle Roundup. Another one is Money Minefield. And then I would say it gives me slight vibes of that game Pirates Chase that we saw on the Bally Astrocade, just because you're just meant to drive around the screen. This does have enemies, that you're driving over, but it just doesn't have that punch. It doesn't have enough oomph to be something good. The only redeeming quality is luring the enemies to the center to get a higher score, but you saw how frustrating it is, and also the hit detection. I mean, look at that. How am I supposed to know? I didn't even see a shot, and I died. I lost a point. Let's see if we can just run them over. Go, go, go. Got it. And then you move on to the bonus round. Yeah, I'm with you, Marshall. This could have been cool, like Solar Fox. Like this, I think it was the shooting mechanic. Everything's better with shooting, maybe. Got a perfect bonus round, even without the boost. Very nice. All right, so there you go. Of all the games you could play across all home computers have a much more competition, and so there's a lot more to be desired that you would have to... That would be better than this game. Why am I dying on the enemies? I thought you're supposed to time it based on when they fire, at least the red enemies, when they shoot, but no. Right there. Again, what did I hit? I don't know. So looking in the chat, I got Marshall throwing out 2 stars of all the games you could play across all home computers. M. Tisky saying 2.5. Yes, I expected better from you, Wonderhole, says James with 2.5 stars. And yes, it leaves a lot to be desired. It had potential, kind of like the rating I saw before. But it is something that we can't say is a true variant or a true copy or clone of anything else we've seen. And so while I wouldn't go as low as saying it's 2 stars or in the bad star range of all the games we've seen so far across all home computers, yeah, right, Brian, I'm actually with you there. I'm thinking around the average range still of all the games you could play across all home computers, because it has continuous music or a tune while you're playing, and there's a slight polish, I guess, when it comes to the presentation, but the gameplay itself isn't very rewarding. It makes me wonder why the arcade was lost, or why most people don't get it. But because it's something we've never really seen before, I could push as high as 3 stars, still somewhere around the average range, but I won't be as kind. Wonderhole has, when you think of all the computer games we've seen so far at this point, even if it's something above average and original, it doesn't really warrant to be something 3.5 stars, which is our usual above average rating for computer games. But did anyone in the chat say 3 stars? I don't think so. No one really did. Yeah, if I was generous, I'd say 3 stars as well, but I'm going to go 2.5 stars. I won't say bad, but there's better games, obviously, that still average for all the games on all home computers. All right, so after Wonderhole, what in the world could be next? Our next video game takes us to the arcade. It's time to play Xevious. The Xevious. And can you imagine going to the arcade and seeing this for the very first time? Well, that's what we're going to do. Let's check out Xevious together. Starting with the artwork. All right. This was first released in the arcades, and it marks the 647th arcade game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. The Moby Games database right now lists the Japanese arcade release as March 1982, but I couldn't find proof of this anywhere. I do have proof of location tests in December 1982, so the release could have been most likely in December 1982 for Japan, or maybe even early January 1983. And so I guess this is another one of those releases that you couldn't pin down. I even had some people say this was released December 10th, 1982. At this time in gaming, anything goes. There's so much out there, and I'm going to just say beginning of December 1982 is when we get Xevious. This is awesome. Later, it's going to be released in North America by Atari. Here's the North American advertisement. We're not going to kick off Xevious in North America. Atari is going to be releasing this one in the most likely February 1982. And the manual in Japan had more pages to it that we'll be checking out, or more artwork to see. And there's the back of the Atari advertisement flyer, and that's the arcade cabinet. A few things to note is the multi-levels, like the down by the controller has a step up, but then they have more artwork above the arcade cabinet. Very, very well done. And this is the North American Atari release of Xevious. We're in Japan. The very first time you could check it out was by Namco. There it is. Namco. This is the 36th time we've seen Namco on Chronologically Gaming. At home, Namco's released 2 games on the Commodore VIC-20, Pac-Man, re-released as Jelly Monsters, and Rally X, re-released as Radar Rat Race. On the Atari 2600, Pac-Man, originally by Namco, is there. On the Atari home computer, Galaxian and Pac-Man are available, just like on the Atari 5200. We've seen Galaxian and Pac-Man. They've done 6 games for the Sword M5. That's what we just played. And in the arcade, this is Namco's 24th game, bringing us bangers like Galaxian, King and Balloon, Pac-Man, Rally X, Galaga, Bosconian, Pole Position, Dig Dug, and Super Pac-Man. Possible release of February 1982 for the United States. Again, we won't be seeing that one, but this is Xevious, or all the Xevious that you can get. The manual here is breaking down all the enemies. We got roughly 20 different enemy types for this game, and notice that they are showing the pixel art on the manual, not shying away from, because it's very well done. Some of the best pixel work we've seen in a video game. It shows. There's another example of the arcade cabinet, and then the arcade PCB, several CPUs involved with this one. They went all out. Namco wanted to make a game that looks very, very impressive, and this one's one of the best. There's the arcade control panel. We got an 8-way joystick. We have our zapper button and blaster button. The 2 players is really not 2 players at the same time. You're going to be taking turns. Hot seat arcade multiplayer. And the North American arcade marquee, Atari snagged this one up. They knew it was good, and they wanted to release it. And we also have some very classic artwork. This is similar to Zaxxon, makes me feel like we're now moving into the next wave of arcade games, the look and feel of them. This one is going to push the limits for what arcade games are going to do moving forward. I know, right? So much on that board. It's amazing. Great artwork, great screenshots. I also have the full manual, the Japanese advert that you would have seen, including the picture we've seen before. And the inside flyer has lots of artwork. It has a screenshot of the game, letting you know this takes place in North America. I think that's more like South America there. And then look, artwork for the game, showing off the pixels again for all the characters and all the names. This is in Japanese, but you can see we have everyone in the game. So cool. And then a breakdown of how to play the game, giving you some tips and tricks, making sure that you know how to blow up the Andor Genesis, the boss, the mega boss. There's the cocktail version of the cabinet right there, and then the back artwork with credits. Very, very classy, very, very nice. I love it. And then later when we see this in North America, this is Atari's manual. Atari always does really, really great job with this. The original game was done by Masanobu Endo, and it's the first time we've ever seen this developer do anything. They're going to go on later to do the Tower of Jiraga. Very, very nice. And also Masaya Nakamura, which eventually will be the president of Namco. The only time we've seen them up to this point, they were credited in Miss Pac-Man. And if you remember, Miss Pac-Man wasn't technically released by Namco. This is also done by Shinichiro Okamoto. The 4th time we've seen them doing games like Tank Battalion, Warp and Warp, Pole Position. And then the first time we've seen Shinichi Kojima doing later Ga Plus, which we'll see in the arcades. And then the first time we've seen Shigeru Sato. They're going to eventually do games like Mappy, Ga Plus, and Pac-Land. So all-star cast doing this game. The sound was done by Yoriko Kaino. The 4th time we've seen them. They did the sound in Dig Dug, Super Pac-Man, and Pole Position. And so this right here is the North American Atari manual, showing you the usual we've seen with the Atari manuals, parts and so forth. We're not going to go into all the parts. We're not going to be building arcade cabinets here, but you can see well-done artwork for the operator's manual. Imagine you're getting ready to set up your system. You just want to stare at the paperwork. So cool that they set all this up. So I want to know what they say about the game, though. When Atari released it, what did they say about the game? This is the setup procedure, some more artwork, the arcade cabinets, and here it is, the game overview. This is what Atari says about the game. The game Xevious carries you as the Solvalou spacecraft pilot. You will fly through a host of flying enemies and land-based obstacles that try to shoot you from the sky. Your mission is to reclaim the enemy-occupied Earth by shooting and bombing the enemy into oblivion. You must skillfully pilot your spacecraft through harder and harder encounters with the enemy. A new feature of this game is an additional attraction panel located below the video display. Lower attraction panel enhances the visual appeal, so they're talking about the arcade cabinet. But that's it. That's all the manual has to say about the game and the gameplay. That's all Atari gave you. There's some additional versions of this, the harder version, PCB, and other ones. We're going to go to Japan in the arcade and play the first. This is Xevious, released in the beginning of December 1982 by Namco and later by Atari. Here it is. Look at all this. Now, the presentation I'm giving you is the full spread. The side panel artwork, the bezel work, and then the arcade marquee, everything. The game is condensed to a really small screen, but don't worry, we'll zoom it in. As the attract mode plays, I want everyone to realize of the shoot 'em up genre and where we came from with shooters. This is the 188th scrolling shoot 'em up that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. This is the 52nd scrolling shoot 'em up we've seen in the arcades thus far, and the 16th scrolling shoot 'em up that is auto-scrolling vertically. And when you think of it, wait, there's already been 16 games that are auto-scrolling vertically? Can't be that impressive. And if you don't think that's impressive, then it's time for a Chrono recap. A vertically scrolling shoot 'em up Chrono recap. What I'm going to do first is tell you the games that are not included in the Chrono recap. We are going to go through vertically scrolling shoot 'em ups that we've seen thus far in the compendium of how we got to Xevious. Now, some of the titles that didn't make this recap were the games that were like Space Invaders or variants of Space Invaders. In fact, all fixed shooters, you could say, would be the grandfathers of scrolling shoot 'em ups, and that includes the games like Swarm or a bootleg of Galaxian or Galaxian style games. Essentially, the scrolling starfield in the background just got faster and faster, and then eventually we turned into more scrolling games. We're also not going to include any Moon Alpha, Moonraker, Fantasia, or Moon Cresta variants, and Moon Cresta itself won't be in this recap. We're also not including Caverns of Mars and Phobos because they scroll the other way. We're doing vertically scrolling shoot 'em ups as in, to the top of the screen. And we're also not going to include that terrible port called Cavern Battle. That's not going to be in the recap either. We're also not including Starship and UFO that were on the ZX Spectrum because, again, it scrolls the other way. The recap will not include Star Blaster. That was on the Apple II. It's kind of like Vanguard because it has a diagonal section, but it never really has a vertical section. We're also not including Explorer by Data East or any other chase view rail shooters. This is strictly vertically scrolling shoot 'em ups. We're also not going to include any non-scrolling or non-auto-scrolling vertical shooters like Strategy X or Frontline. We're also not going to include any games that are freely scrolling shoot 'em ups like Bosconian or Time Pilot. This is just where we've come from and how we got to Xevious through vertically scrolling shoot 'em ups. All right, everyone ready? Here we go. The very first time we ever saw a scrolling shoot 'em up was all the way back in November 1975 with Avenger, and the footage you're going to see through the whole recap is the show, how we experienced it. Avenger, we didn't even get to play. This one, we had to watch footage of a broken arcade cabinet. It is the first remnants of a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. Could be considered that way. After that, in October 1975, we saw SOS, and I first saw it and said, this is it, the first vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, but you could still even classify some of these as fixed shooters. After that, we saw Astro Fighter in November 1979, and only because the enemies slowly come in the top of the screen. You still could consider this a fixed shooter, but notice, we have a scrolling starfield. It's debatable. After that, we saw Ozma Wars in December 1979. Again, this one is scrolling the starfield, but enemies are coming from off screen, giving you the effect that you're actually traveling through space. There's so many connections, and we've seen everything on Chronologically Gaming. So after Ozma Wars in 1979, we saw Phantom 2, a very, very fast scrolling. I mean, you can barely even see the plane in this one. After that, at home, and the first time at home, the first time we ever saw a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up was on the fantastic Phantoms 5 in August 1980. This game still blows me away that it existed. It's fantastic. And then this one's kind of fudging the numbers, but we did see a game called Highway Chase in 1980, and then later another one that was really close called Mad Alien. This one's essentially a fixed shooter, but they said, hey, driving games, they scroll, so let's make it a driving game where you're in a car shooting things up, but the screen is sort of scrolling, at least on the sides, kind of like Monaco GP. After that, we saw 0 Hour in 1980. This one allows, again, scrolling starfields, things populating off screen, but it still has little elements here and there of things popping at the top of the screen and then appearing to play. It is amazing to see this slow evolution, but you can see how it's recalling back to the times of Space Invaders or Galaxian. Notice this scene here, the starfield's going even faster and faster. After that, we saw Borderline in 1981 by Sega. It has other game modes, but this one had a choppy, vertically scrolling shooter. After that, in 1981, we saw Red Clash. This first part of the game looks like most of the other shooters we've seen, where the enemies are coming from off screen a little bit, or maybe even like Mooncrest on one part of the screen. But after you get through this section, the section that really made me feel like a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up was when the walls, like a planet or a spaceship, started to fly. I mean, look at this. It's even closer to a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. We're getting closer and closer. After Red Clash, we saw Space Cruiser in 1981. It had another mode like this one. This isn't the whole game. That was really close to a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. It also is showing shadows on the ground, giving a pseudo 3D effect. Very, very well done, and that's one of the game modes of the game. After that, we saw Space Odyssey in 1981. Same thing. Oh, wait. This one. This one was Space Odyssey. This one was Space Cruiser from 1981. It had vertically scrolling starfields, and then was Space Odyssey in 1981. And this one had, again, multiple game modes, not just this vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. After that, we saw Star Raker, which was a reskinned Borderline in 1981. Just change up a few of the things. It's very similar to Borderline. And after that, we saw Vanguard. Now, this one does have diagonally scrolling, as you can see here. This was 1981, but Vanguard also showcased vertically scrolling shoot 'em ups and going down. It was all over the place. Vanguard did a lot for the shoot 'em up genre. And you can see the diagonal section is still cool because we're scrolling horizontally for shooters at this time, but then you were able to scroll vertically as well. And the map's at the top of the screen. I also wanted to include Zaxxon because while it's not a true vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, I wanted you to see shoot 'em ups from an isometric perspective, that they exist, and we have seen them. Plays very differently than a true vertically scrolling shoot 'em up though. After that, in March 1982, we saw Mission X. Look at this. This is getting closer to a landscape shoot 'em up, but the landscape, it repeats a lot. You're not going to really see like a world growing before you like we were seeing with our current game. After that, in April 1982, we saw TaxScan. This one is vertically scrolling, uses color vector graphics, really, really cool looking, and again, not really like a landscape shoot 'em up. After that, we saw Funky Bee in July 1982, one of the first landscape scrolling shoot 'em ups, and one of the first, would you refer to them as cute 'em ups? Then after that, at home on the Atari 2600 in July 1982, we saw Vanguard, possibly the first time you were vertically scrolling in a shoot 'em up on a home console. So while this section is one of the sections, you don't really go diagonally, but we'll take it. After that, in August 1982, we saw Moonbase IO, which has a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up section. There's a lot more to this game besides that, but it did have this. Next at home on the ColecoVision was Zaxxon in August 1982. Again, not a true vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, but still impressive for a shoot 'em up because I'm kind of thinking like Vanguard. It's diagonal or isometric. After that, in September 1982, we saw Space Raider, which really feels like Radar Zone moving, or a few games we've seen that were moving. I mean, vertically scrolling, sort of. It's close. After that, in September 1982, we saw Worm War 1, a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up for a home console on the Atari. Pretty good. After that was Meteor Blaster on October 1982. Again, very close. You can see the way that this is moving. It's not just vertical, you're also moving to the left and to the right. And there's a lot of trickery going on, but it's still reminiscent of a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. And then in October 1982, we saw Radical Radial in the arcades. Is it a driving game? Is it a shooter? I don't care, it's fun. After that was Space Ace on October 1982. Space Ace, not the Space Ace you're thinking of, was a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. And again, you can see the difference between the games coming home and how amazing Phantoms 2 was compared to these other ones. Or Phantoms 5, I mean, by Nasir Gabelli. And then after that, we saw Star Warrior on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, October 1982. It had 2 different game modes. One of them was this, a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. After that was Fantastic Voyage on the Atari home computer in November 1982. Very well done, vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. But then even better than that, in November 1982, we saw Rougian. This is one of the modes of Rougian in the arcades, and it has a bring your space shuttle up, bring your space shuttle down mechanic when you're in this game mode. Really awesome. Then we saw Super Zaxxon, November 1982. It's just faster, way hard Zaxxon. Similar vein on the Sinclair ZX81 or Timex Sinclair 1000, we saw City of Zaun in November 1982. After that was Wild Western in November 1982. It's a slower scrolling shoot 'em up, barely considered a shoot 'em up just because it's not as fast, but you are shooting in multi-directions. Then after that, we saw in November 1982, Zor. This one, again, looks really close. Look at that landscape shooter. It's like just bumping the notch up a little bit more, getting closer. Then we saw Fantastic Voyage ported home on the Atari 2600 in December. After that, on the Arcadia 2001 was Red Clash. This one's, again, fudging the numbers because it's barely scrolling, but it's still, of all the games you could play across home consoles, this is what we're used to right now. Until the latest vertically scrolling shoot 'em up was River Raid on the Atari 2600. Fantastic. One of the best. And then we get to where we are today. This is Xevious. How does Xevious stack up compared to everything so far? Well, now you know. Let's put a coin in and check it out. Blows us away. Ready, player one? Now, I'm actually going to get you familiar with the movement. So when you start the game, you look down at your ship and you're like, hey, it looks kind of familiar. That ship's from, I believe, Alien? The Nostromo. But my movement has a lot. Look at this. I can move way at the top of the screen, essentially until the crosshair cuts off, and then that's as far as you can go. But you have a lot of movement. I have an 8-way joystick to move in 8 different directions. I got 1 shot to fire forward, and I got my bomb to drop down. And my bomb's based on where the crosshair is on the screen. So it's like you have to do a targeting system or timing to drop the bomb. If you time it right, you can get a double shot like that. I'm already enthralled because the enemy patterns is way different. It reminds me when we first saw Galaga in the arcades. Galaga was introducing enemy patterns we hadn't seen before. Or even another example is at home, there's a shooter called AE, where the enemy patterns are very different. This is even higher than that. This one feels more advanced. And there's a lot under the hood that's happening too here. Plus what we're scrolling through, that was the first zone we saw. It continues to go zone by zone, and it's separated by this line of trees. Wow. The same way that I felt about when we played Zaxxon, this feels like another world, like or higher technology than anything else we've seen up to this point. You're having to focus on both ground attacks and in the sky. So I'm having to look down on one level, but then also pay attention to the top. So you got to get the timing down for that, and then timing for my shots for what's on the ground. So a lot of things to think of and work through. Let's see if I can get a secret here. Oh, it didn't work. You can pop in for Easter eggs. There's even a secret in the beginning of the game. If you fire enough bombs off, that the developer pops in, which is so cool because at this time, people were trying to take developers or get them recruited for their company. And he still hid it away. Wow. Awesome. Blown away by the amount of content. This also feels very, very fast-paced. When you think of the other shooters we've seen up to this point, there's a lot more happening on the screen. Oh, look at this. And look at the pixel artwork. It feels like a 3D image is coming at us. And bear in mind, we haven't seen iRobot yet. Yeah, this is so elite compared to, I'm with you there, Marshall, compared to everything else we've seen so far. Just to give you a heads up, the dip switches in the game have been slightly modified. The default setting for this game is normal difficulty and 3 lives. I've bumped the lives up to 5 just so we can have a little more game footage, possibly reach the boss. The Andor Genesis. Go get Genesis. If I don't play it long enough. So the player's objective is to destroy as much of the invading Xevian army as they possibly can. The player's ship, the Solvalou, is capable of moving in 8 directions. I'm able to travel to any point on the screen. It has 2 weapons I can use, the Zapper and the Blaster. The Zapper is used to take out aerial enemies, and I get 3 shots from the Zapper on screen before they're stopped. So look, I can do 3 quick shots, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If I hold the button down, I do have turbo fire, but it's a lot slower. The targeting system is only 1 blaster shot on screen at a given time, so you can see it's slower to respond for the bombs down there. The game consists of 16 distinct areas. Once the Solvalou makes it through one area, it automatically transitions to the next. Making through 16 areas will send the player back to the first. In other words, it has an arcade gameplay loop. Get that high score, which I need to get some score because I need more lives. The first playtest will be just a run as you see what it would be like to have your first experience with Xevious. Already, the enemy, like these enemy patterns in the beginning is amazing. How they attack and they run away. And then we have this slow creeping in of getting more and more difficult. There's so much to go over this. So when players lose a life, they're normally sent back to the beginning of an area which they died. However, if you manage to complete at least 70% of the area you're in, you're automatically advanced to the next one. And the game ends when the player loses all their lives. So the game, like I just died and all my lives are gone, we've played games that allow you to continue in the arcades. This does not. So if I go in again after putting a coin in, I start at the very beginning of the game. All this game has is checkpoints instead of continues. So while you do die, you'll have a checkpoint system to continue on the area or zone you're on. You have to go all the way at the beginning. They want to see you go through the game from the beginning and how far can you go using the amount of lives you have. Classic. It's brutally hard and awesome. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I got 3 shots at a time. Go, go, go. Hit it. And while you did see there was an Atari version, we're playing the first Japanese version. It's slightly different when it was brought over by Atari, but what you see here is classic. Eventually people are going to get so good and play this game so much that on a single quarter they can get through all the stages and then start doing the loop. It takes a lot of focus and concentration. It's very difficult to do the live show and play at the same time. Or at least comment on it. The dual air-ground combat, it's really cool because Xevious was one of the earliest games to have 2 distinct types of attacks for different targets. The detailed varied backgrounds, unlike contemporary shooters that use simple star fields or basic repeated patterns for backgrounds, Xevious features detailed, diverse scrolling landscapes, including forests, deserts, rivers, and then even Peruvian Nazca lines later on. It's a big step when you consider in the games we've seen up to this point. The other thing is it's on Earth. We're not playing. Well, it's a sci-fi game. We're not playing on a distant planet, or like you saw with the other titles. And we have seen Mission X was on Earth, but it was not a world that we're scrolling below us. This one feels more like we're playing a world. Can I get it? No extra bonus life. But if you do get the secret, oh, there you go. See, I love that. The lucky shots to blow things up and cause chain reactions. It's so cool. It also has something that we really haven't seen too many games do. This game has a dynamic difficulty system, or a rank system. The game features a hidden rank system that dynamically adjusts the difficulty based on how well the player's performing. So doing well actually makes enemies faster and more aggressive, and a mechanic that's going to influence other shmups like Battle Garega. That's another thing that makes this so influential. I believe that if you destroy the ground targets, then it lowers the difficulty a little bit, but if you just keep shooting and doing a great job, it's going to slowly ramp it up. It also has early boss fights. The really large enemy encounter, or the Andor Genesis, is a massive flying fortress and considered just an amazing boss fight in video game history. There's also those bonuses I was talking about. Xevious is one of the first to have hidden bonuses and secrets. It even has invisible soul towers, and then a special flag taken directly from Rally X, one of the other Namco games. It awards you an extra life if you bomb in specific places. Let's see if I can get one over here. They're hidden in a few places. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on the live show. These giant columns were inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey, and as they fly around the screen, they are indestructible. You essentially just have to dodge them. But I'm blown away at the world that's driven before me, rather than the other shoot-'em-ups felt like when you were watching silent movies. You know how they just had a constant scrolling screen when someone was running? This feels totally different. It also feels like the artwork they spent a lot more time on. All of the characters are shaded with different shades of gray, and it makes it feel slightly 3D. Again, harking back to how I felt about Zaxxon. It wasn't using a true 3D engine or anything like that, but it was still giving us. Oh man, his patterns are crazy. It's giving us the illusion that we're playing something in 3D. There you go, got an extra life, but still got a lot to go if we're going to see the boss. And not even close to seeing all the different stages. Get a few there. Let's see if we can come. He's coming back around. I'll just ignore him. Indestructible. Can't destroy him at all. It's also one of the first video games. Oh, we got it. Is it going to let us? No, I think it's... Andor Genesis shows up, and when we died, you can see what it did. It brought us back here, which means I think it skipped us ahead, or maybe we got skipped back. Let me see. I can't tell. Oh man, so fun though. I'm loving it. It's one of the first arcade games with a U.S. television commercial. Atari, when it was published, ran a TV commercial for Xevious. Are you devious enough to play Xevious? First advertised in the U.S., and we saw one other later when Dig Dug was released. We saw Dig Dug had one. All right, here it is. Notice we have a new enemy type too, spawning in or teleporting in. Good gosh, they're everywhere. Easy does it. Yes! And we blew them up. So cool seeing something that large. Anything with a boss that comes up is awesome. I felt the same way when we played Demon Attack at home. When giant bosses start showing up, it makes it even more fun. Oh man, I love it. So this TV commercial isn't anywhere. I couldn't find footage of the actual commercial. And I couldn't find... all I found was someone had the audio track of it, but no one has the commercial or can't find the original Atari commercial. And bear in mind, they've captured things like... oh man, we're in different enemy types again as we fly over the water. They've captured the Atari commercials like when... can't focus. There's so many enemies now on the screen. When we played Yar's Revenge, we showed the Yar's Revenge commercial. That's the same thing. Go! Go! But I did have this. Oh, I don't have this. There is a promotional video of Xevious, and the promotional video of Xevious goes through like the history and so forth. But you can see, now that we're back to Xevious, we have a high score that we can put in here. I can put in my full name if I wanted to. Can I? Oh yeah, it skips to the other side. And you can even put in lowercase characters. Look at this. What? Full names. Is this a computer game? I can't believe it. In the arcades, you were able to put in an entire long... You didn't just put in 3 initials? That's awesome. Going in for another round of Xevious here. This is also one of the very first video games with a full-on soundtrack. The success of Xevious, because it was very, very popular, led to the soundtrack algorithm produced by Harumi Hosono, of Yellow Magic Orchestra in 1984, which is credited as one of the very first, if not the first, video game soundtracks you could buy. But I think it's because everyone loved it. This game essentially has one sound or song, what you're hearing here. And they probably turned it into multiple songs. Wow. Gosh, it's so crazy. It would take a lot of practice, but when people started to really enjoy and get into the game, they played this over and over and over again, got through all the stages, and just kept looping it, going for higher and higher scores. It's a game changer. Yeah, and if you were here on the show, we did check out the Dig Dug commercial when it came up. As yeah, Jeremiah's bringing up, it's pretty good. Yeah, the Dig Dug one was awesome. I really wish someone could bring up that Xevious commercial. Yep, it would have appeared on the Atari 50, I believe, but it's December 1982, so I'll pretend, you know, Atari's only... Atari could never be 50 years old. That's impossible. And I think this game takes place in 2012? The future. See, and you get focused on one plane, you forget about the others. The other titles we've seen that have slightly, you know, the option of two levels of things, it's very reminiscent and very close or influenced by Scramble and Super Cobra. You know, we have different zones just like it did. Scramble and Super Cobra was scrolling horizontally rather than vertical, but it also had the shot firing forward and the bomb down below. It's just now incorporated as a top-down shooter. We just keep evolving. Video games keep on taking inspiration from others and then moving on. This one's just done so well. Yeah, that's right, Jeremiah. Atari 10. Because they were Syzygy Engineering, I believe, in 71, and then 72 is when they became Atari. So it's 1982, it's the 10th anniversary. Awesome. Alright, now the moment of truth. Of all the games you could play in the arcade right now, what do you say you would give Xevious? Our 5-star rating scale essentially means if you think it's around the 1-star range, you would rate this as a broken game in the arcade. If you think it's a bad game, you'd rate it somewhere in the 2-star range. If you think this is a pretty average arcade game for all the games you could play in December 1982, you'd rate it somewhere in the 3-star range. An excellent or above average game would be 4 stars. And then one of the best games you could play throughout the arcade, it would be a 5-star or the 5-star range. And is everyone doing 5 stars? Oh, there we go. M-Tiski's got a 4-star. But wow, we got 4 5-star ratings. Usually there's not a consensus for a 5-star game. But hopefully I gave you a pretty good context of everything else that would be available as a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. And even fudging it, showing you Zaxxon as an isometric shooter. Yes, if you're in the arcade, and bear in mind, we're seeing this first in Japan. This is so influential. There are people that were not even into video games that played this in Japan, and then they started to make video game companies. That's how influential this is. This game ends up inspiring shooters after shooters, and the wave of what shoot 'em ups can be and what they can accomplish begins here. Xevious is the reason we're going to be getting mountains and mountains of scrolling shoot 'em ups, and in this formula, I mean, going vertically just like this. GSE streams going 5 stars too. I think we might have a 5-star spread for all the games you could play, and I couldn't agree more. Of all the games you could play on the arcades, Xevious gets a 5. Got to get that commercial. Check it out on audio. I'll include a link down below and lots of links if you want to check out even more content besides just this, including a full history and compendium of Xevious games. But Xevious delivers its 5 stars, and that is where we have to say we run out of quarters, because That's all the time we have today on Chronologically Gaming. I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's here live on the show, December 1982, playing Xevious, experiencing Xevious, and where we've come from the beginning all the way until now, December 1982. I also am very thankful for everyone that's on our Patreon supporting and contributing to Chronologically Gaming now. This challenge or this quest to play every single video game wouldn't be possible without you and, of course, everyone that's watching the video, leaving comments down below, and enjoying this quest that we're having. We're having a blast. Well, next time on Chronologically Gaming, Time Lords are attacking on the Odyssey 2, the newest Nintendo handheld, and The Wizard finally comes to play on your Atari VCS. That's it for today, and like I always say, nothing will ever be the same again. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and be a Chronologically Gaming influencer, rating the games as we play them. This video wouldn't be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and Main. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every video game. We have links down below that give more information on the games we played this episode, as well as our Discord and Patreon. There's a link called All the Games We Have Played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.